Hello, my name's Ariel. I'm a 30-year-old woman. These last couple of months have been the hardest months of my life, but I'm gradually getting through it all. I thought I would come on here and share my story with whoever is willing to listen. So here I go. I met my now ex-husband, Matty, through a dating app. We had great chemistry over text and we shared similar ideals. We seemed perfect on paper, so I decided to give him a shot and we went on a date. That one date turned into many more until we were officially together. At the time that Maddie and I started dating, I got a pretty big promotion at work. I had already been saving up at that time to buy myself a house, and a few months after I got my promotion, I managed to buy my first house. It was a pretty house and it was everything I had ever dreamed of. And when Maddie and I hit the 2-year mark of dating, we decided to move in together. Since Matty lived in a rented apartment, the rational option would be for him to move in with me. That's exactly what we did. Our relationship was going beautifully and I was in a very happy place. I think I was only that happy up until the month leading up to our wedding. You see, Matty's parents were not the nicest people, to say the least. I got away with barely meeting them a lot because they lived in another state. Matty and I would only go over there during family holidays and we'd stay there for a maximum of 2 weeks. Even though I was only there for 2 weeks, every single time it felt like I was there for much longer. Maddie's parents, Eddie and Sasha, always treated me like I didn't exist at all. It used to bother me a lot. And when I say that they treated me that way, I mean that Sasha would always forget that she had to cook for 3 people instead of 4, and she would always call everyone down for dinner while I was in the middle of doing something like taking a shower or doing something for work, so that meant that I went without dinner. She'd do this every day. And when I caught on and kept my evenings entirely free, Sasha openly told me to make my own dinner because she didn't make enough for me. Eddie was not any better. Aside from backing Sasha every time, he would also do things like plan fun days out, but conveniently exclude me from them. So some mornings I'd wake up and the house would be empty. There would be one single note from Matty telling me that they'd gone out. Needless to say, I was always ready to get out of Eddie and Sasha's place. They always made me feel like I was unwelcome guest, and I didn't like that. I would cry to Matty about it, and he would tell me that it was just the way his parents were, that there was nothing wrong with me, yet it never explained why I deserved that treatment to begin with. I should have considered how Matty never stood up for me before I got married to him. But unfortunately, I didn't give that much thought because I figured that we wouldn't have to meet Eddie and Sasha as much even after marriage. Well, I was very wrong about that. After Matty and I got married, things only got worse for me. Suddenly, Eddie and Sasha were inviting us out everywhere. Cruises, vacations, big family gatherings, you name it, we were invited. And Matty could never say no to them. We were lucky that both our jobs allowed for remote working, so Matty would often say yes to his parents' invitations. While I did initially look forward to these events, I gradually came to despise them. Eddie and Sasha would either ignore my existence or they would treat me like their servant who they could use to run all their errands. No amount of talking to Matty about it changed anything. I tried to talk to Eddie and Sasha about it, but Matty shut that down immediately. It got to a point where after dealing with Eddie and Sasha's shenanigans for a few years, I told Matty that I was not going to go to any of their events anymore. And that led to a big fight between Matty and me, but Matty eventually caved and let it go. I practically hadn't seen Eddie or Sasha for a good 8 months, which had been the longest I'd gone. And it had been a good year, until Matty came back home one day and asked me what our plans were for Thanksgiving. "Sweetie, do we have any plans for this Thanksgiving?" "Not yet. Why?" "Well, I spoke to my mom today and she was asking if we could join them for Thanksgiving this year." Absolutely not. What? Why? Do you not remember how badly they treated me the last time I went over to their place? Oh, come on. You can't seriously think that they purposely did all those things? You're telling me your mom coincidentally happened to make only enough food for 3 people instead of food every day and made sure to call for dinner while I was busy? If you wanted more food, you could have just helped Mom out in the kitchen. Why do I have to do that and not your dad or you? Sweetie, you have to understand that my mom is used to only cooking for my dad and me. She isn't used to there being another person to cook for. I've seen her cook a perfectly good amount of food when her 3 best friends came over. You have to realize how dumb your excuses sound. Your parents hate me, and they've always shown it to me in very obvious ways. I don't want to be around that energy unless it's absolutely necessary. So what? That's it? You get to decide how we spend Thanksgiving without me having a say? Look, you can go. I know how much you love your parents, so you can go ahead and spend the day with them. I'm telling you that I don't want to go at all. Are you seriously suggesting we spend Thanksgiving apart? What do you want me to do, Maddie? I'm trying to reach a compromise that will make us both happy. I don't want to spend Thanksgiving without you, but I also don't want to spend time with your parents. The only other compromise is we host Thanksgiving this year. We can set them up in a hotel because we don't have an extra room for them, so you don't have to spend too much time with them either. That's not a bad idea, but it's going to be a lot of cooking and you're going to have to help me out. Don't worry, my mom is going to be here and she'll be here to help us out too. Fine, but I mean it. They're not allowed to stay here. If they pull any shenanigans or try to hurt me, I'm not keeping my mouth shut. I hope you don't do that and that you have my back. Sweetie, I always have your back. You just don't necessarily understand my parents, which I get because they are complicated. If they do anything to hurt or upset you, I'll tell them to stop and apologize. All right then, let's go eat. I was not happy about Maddie's plan for Thanksgiving. We had originally discussed having a small celebration for just the 2 of us, but nothing had been made concrete as yet. I didn't exactly want to meet Eddie or Sasha, and I was hoping that I could go through the rest of the year without seeing them. But I understood that Maddie was super close to his parents and there wasn't anything much I could do to stop him from spending time with them. Not that I would have anyway. I begrudgingly invited Eddie and Sasha over to our place for Thanksgiving dinner, but I clearly told them that they would not be staying with us. Sasha seemed to have a problem with that, but I told her she could either spend Thanksgiving with us that way or she could stay back home. She reluctantly agreed to stay at a hotel while she visited us. Sasha and Eddie had never once asked me why I hadn't been visiting them along with Maddie, and I think that spoke volumes enough about how I didn't matter to them at all. Even so, I figured I could give them another chance this Thanksgiving. I did all the meal prep, and all that was left to do was cook the turkey and make a few of the side dishes. The morning of Thanksgiving, Eddie and Sasha arrived in our city. After they checked into their hotel, they came over to our place. I opened the door to them because Maddie was at work and wouldn't be home until a little while later. Come in! Happy Thanksgiving! Happy Thanksgiving! Have you already cooked the meal? Not yet, but I'll be starting in an hour. Oh, great, because we bought the groceries. Groceries? Why do you buy groceries? I already did. A little more never hurt. Yeah, but we won't be able to eat so much either. Okay, look, if we're being completely honest, we don't plan on using anything that you bought. What? Why? Because we want to cook with our own ingredients. Lord knows what kind of things you buy. We don't want to put just anything in our bodies. I literally bought the same things as you did. And what do you mean by you're cooking? You're not doing that. I am. No, you're not cooking anything. What are you talking about? I invited you guys over for Thanksgiving. I'm the one hosting. Of course I'm cooking. I don't know how much you expect us to hint at, but what we're trying to say is that we want you out of the house. What are you even talking about? What I'm talking about is you need to leave while the rest of the family cooks. Why would I do that? Because we want to continue our family tradition of preparing the meal with the family. I'm part of your family too. Why would you kick me out? Don't get that mistaken. You may be married to our son, but you are not family to us. Is this really the best time to throw someone out? I mean, this is Thanksgiving. Do you really feel like it's the right thing to do? Don't try to guilt us into letting you stay. I will not break the family tradition because you tried to manipulate us. Manipulate you? You're the ones that are kicking me out of my own home, all for some family tradition? If it's the meal you want to prepare, then fine. I can sit in my room. Absolutely not. This is a family-only thing, so only family should be in the house. Either you leave or we leave. But that's not fair. Matty has been so excited to see you guys and to spend time with you. Exactly, and we want to spend time with our son, not you. So make your decision. And you think Matty will be okay with me not being here? The whole reason he invited you guys out here is because I refused to go to your place. He wanted to spend time with his wife and his parents. My poor child has been forced to choose between his parents and his wife. This is exactly why we want you gone. He's always on edge because of you, and we just want him to relax. Don't worry about what he thinks. I know my son, and I know that he'll be happy that we're going to spend some quality time together. Just the three of us. Now get out. Stop trying to push me out of my own house. Then leave so we don't have to use force. I practically stormed off outside the house after that. I got in my car and drove until my rage calmed down a little. I couldn't believe the audacity that Eddie and Sasha had to kick me out of my own house. I knew they never considered me their family, but to hear them actually say it both stung and made me irrationally angry. If I wasn't family to them, and if they knew that they wanted to follow their family tradition, why they agreed to me hosting the Thanksgiving dinner? Why did they let me do so much work only for me to not be able to sit in my own house? I was livid. I didn't call Matty up immediately because I wanted to collect my thoughts. The last thing I wanted him to say was that I was being overdramatic and reading into the whole thing too much. After about an hour, I finally calmed down, so I picked up my phone to call Matty, but he called me instead. Hey, darling, I'll be home in an hour. Have my parents reached there yet? Oh, yeah, they did. All right, tell them I'll be home soon. I actually can't do that. What do you mean? They kicked me out of the house. What? What do you mean? They said that they wanted to continue following some family tradition where the entire family cooks together for Thanksgiving. Oh, right, I forgot about that. What do you mean? I forgot how possessive they get about their traditions. Are you serious? It was an honest mistake. Are you not bothered in the least about how they don't consider me a part of the family? Why would I be bothered by that? You know how tight-knit my family is. And you think it's okay for them to throw me out of my own house so they can follow their tradition? Don't take it personally. Even my sister's husband had to go through the same thing. My parents just can't seem to accept anybody into the family. That's not okay, though. I'd be okay with it if the dinner was being held at their house. I have no say in their house. But in my house, that's not okay. You need to talk to them about it. I know you're upset, but you need to let it go. My parents are only doing what they can to keep our family together. Yeah, by throwing me out. I don't care what their reasoning is. You need to talk to them about it. What do you expect me to say? Mom, Dad, Ariel was complaining about how unfair it was that you kicked her out of the house, and she wants you to let her back in. Because if I say that, let me tell you, it won't do anything. So you're not even going to try? You're just going to let them treat me this way? This isn't that deep, Ariel. Just let it go. It's not like they told you that you can't eat dinner with us. You know what? You've never once stood up for me against your parents. You let them treat me like I'm garbage all the time, and you always come up with pathetic excuses for their behavior. Ariel, it's nothing like that. No, shut it. Since you won't help me, I'll take matters into my own hands. Bye. If I was a cartoon character, my face would have been red and I'd have steam shooting out of my ears because that's how mad I was. Why was it so hard for Maddie to just take my side? Why couldn't he call his parents and tell them to be respectful of me? Telling me that his brother-in-law went through the same thing was of no help. His sister and her husband moved to Germany a few years ago, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was because of Eddie and Sasha's treatment of Maddie's brother-in-law. I don't know why, but suddenly I was filled with such intense dislike for Maddie. He suddenly became someone that I wanted to be very far from. I wanted to end the marriage and live happily without him. Yeah, that's how angry I was. I'm going to guess that all the times I expected him to have my back, but he didn't, piled up and led to one big explosion within me. But I knew that thinking of my relationship was not the first thing I wanted to tackle. First thing I needed to tackle was getting Eddie and Sasha out of the house. I racked my brain for ideas on how to get them out, and then I landed on one. I have a cousin, Kian, who worked as a police officer for our district. He lived only a few blocks away from me, so even if he was off, he could swing by and help me out. Plus, he owed me a favor after I helped him find the house he was living in. Anyway, I called him up, and it turned out that his shift was just ending, so he could help me out. He met me at the coffee shop that I was sitting in. He was in his uniform, and he looked very official. Eddie and Sasha had no idea that I had a cousin who was a cop. How could they have known when they never even bothered to get to know me to begin with? Kian and I went back to my place, and thankfully, Eddie and Sasha were too busy cooking to notice that I walked in. Eventually, Sasha looked up from her dish and saw me standing in the kitchen. "What are you doing here? I thought we told you that you couldn't be here because we have to cook." "Oh, yes, I know that, but I brought someone here to help me out with that. This is Officer Kian." "Why did you bring a police officer here?" "Sir, ma'am, you need to leave Miss Ariel's house right now." "What? Why? You must have gotten this wrong. We are her in-laws, and we're here to celebrate Thanksgiving with her and my son." "Yes, but Miss Ariel has said that you kicked her out of her own house and wouldn't let her back in. That's not okay. I'm here to escort you two outside." "Really? Ariel? You got the cops involved? You couldn't have just talked to us about this?" "I tried to. You wouldn't listen to me. Now, are you going to leave, or is there going to be an issue?" "Why are you ruining Thanksgiving? All we wanted was some quality family time." "I'm not ruining Thanksgiving at all. You brought this on yourselves. You can have your quality family time in your own house because you made it clear that I'm not a part of your family." "Is that what this is all about? You're jealous that you're not a part of our family?" "Absolutely not. I have no reason to be jealous of a family that can so easily exclude someone and throw them out of their own house." "Okay, look, we're really sorry. We shouldn't have done that. You can stay here and even help cook the meal." "Yeah, you're a part of our family, and we're being mean for no reason. Officer, I'm sure that there are better things to do than this, so you can leave." "No, sir, ma'am. Miss Ariel wants you out, and unless she says otherwise, I'm going to be here to make sure that you leave." "Ariel, tell him that you've forgiven us and we're going to be here." "No, I want you out." "But we apologized." "You only apologized so you can stay here. You didn't mean that, and even if you did, your apology is a little too late. I've dealt with your bullying for long enough. And this was the final straw. This is why we could never consider you a part of our family. You're so dramatic." "Good. I'm glad I was never considered a part of your family now, because I deserve better than this. Leave my house. What do you think Matty is going to think about this? He's not going to be okay with you kicking his parents out like this. Don't worry about that. Since you know your son so well, I'm sure he'll be happy to not have to deal with me any longer, because I'll be sending him to stay with you too. Now leave, or else Officer Kian will have to use force. Eddie and Sasha left, but not without throwing me a death glare. I glared at them coolly as they left my house and got into Kian's car and waited for Kian. I thanked Kian, and he assured me that it was no problem for him to help me out this way. I got to cleaning up whatever mess Eddie and Sasha made, which, by the way, they made a lot of because it wasn't their house they were cooking in, so I assume they thought they could make a huge mess without worrying too much. I wondered if Matty would have found out about what happened to his parents, if I was going to have to tell him what happened. I mean, I knew either way that I was going to be blamed. The thoughts of leaving him began to resurface in my mind again, and I began contemplating if I really should go through with it. A few minutes after I was done cleaning the kitchen, Matty stormed into the house with a panicked look on his face. What did you do? Welcome back home. Did you really kick my parents out after involving the cops? Calm down. The officer was my cousin, and I told you that I was taking things in my hands. So you thought it was okay to kick my parents out by threatening them? Are you not seeing the irony of this? Your parents kicked me out of my house, so I did the same thing to them. They were only trying to enjoy Thanksgiving. You didn't have to bring your cousin to threaten them. They were trying to enjoy Thanksgiving at my expense. I've been telling you for so long how hurt I get by the way they treat me, but you never stood up for me. This was just the last straw for me. Fine. I'm sorry I didn't do all that for you. My parents are also sorry for throwing you out of the house. Now, I'm going to invite them back, and you're going to apologize for threatening them, okay? Excuse me? That's not happening at all. They are not coming back to this house at all. Why not? We've all apologized. There's no need to make a big fuss right now. None of you meant your apologies. You just want to salvage your perfect family. Thanksgiving. If you truly meant your apologies, you would have shown care for my feelings right now, but you haven't. What is your problem? Why do you always have to make a big deal out of everything? You know what? I was contemplating whether I should even do this, but now I'm sure. I'm done with you. What? What do you mean? What I mean is, I want a divorce. I'm done with you dismissing all my feelings and telling me all the time that I'm overreacting or being dramatic. You can't be serious. You want a divorce all because my parents kicked you out? I didn't even do anything. That's the point. Are you not listening to me? You've never done anything, and I'm sick and tired of it. I want you out of my house and out of my life. No, please. Please don't leave me. I'm really sorry, okay? I should have treated you better. I know that now. Please, give me one more chance. That's the problem. I gave you way too many chances in the 5 years we've been together. I'm done giving you any more chances. If you had such a huge problem with me and my parents' behavior, why did you never say anything? You really haven't been listening to a single thing I've been telling you for the last 5 years, and I think that's proof enough of why I need to get a divorce from you. Now get out. Go and join your parents in their hotel room. I'll start the filing process tomorrow, and you can come back after your parents leave. I just don't want to be around you right now. Matty stared at me with his jaw dropped, but I didn't have any more energy to deal with him. So I turned around, went to the guest bedroom, and locked myself in there. I only got out when I heard the front door lock click. I waited in the room for an extra hour just to make sure that Matty wasn't around. After I stepped out of the room, I made sure he wasn't in the house before finally allowing myself to break down. I know I sounded all gung-ho and tough while I was dealing with Matty and his parents, but everything that happened that day had a deep effect on me. I tried my best to shoulder on and make sure I didn't let any of them know that I was really affected by their words and actions. Thankfully, I held up pretty well. After I let myself cry, I had my dinner and promptly fell asleep. I woke up the next morning with a plan of action in mind. First thing I did was get in touch with a lawyer. I needed to start the divorce process, and I needed to figure out what the costs and impacts would be. Thankfully, since I owned the house before I got married to Maddie, I wouldn't have to give him anything. Maddie and I had equal income, so there was no need for any alimony. The only cost was the fee of the lawyer, and I had more than enough for that. I filed for a divorce, and I was finally beginning to feel free. Maddie never stopped calling and texting me after I asked him to leave that day. Even Eddie and Sasha reached out to me and told me that Maddie was mad at them for ruining his marriage. They begged me to take Maddie back, but I ignored them. Why should I listen to them when all they did was make me feel miserable? I hope that seeing Maddie that way helped them realize that their actions had consequences. Maddie came back home after 5 days, and he got on his knees to beg me to not leave him. He was bawling, and while my heart hurt for him, I did my best to keep a stoic face. I told him that my tears never moved him to talk to his parents, so his tears aren't doing anything to me either. I left him to pack all his things up and get them ready for when he'd have to leave. I got the divorce papers and handed them to him. I also got an eviction notice that I served him, which I gave him 1 month to vacate the house. Maddie threatened to not sign the divorce papers, but I laughed in his face. If he didn't sign them in 30 days, it would be up to a judge to decide, and I had enough evidence to prove Eddie and Sasha's treatment of me. A divorce would happen no matter what he did. Matty eventually gave up and signed it after 2 weeks. He also moved out without making any more of a fuss, which I was super grateful for, because I didn't know if I'd have been able to deal with any more of his tantrums. Anyway, the divorce just got finalized, and I'm now a free woman. I no longer have to deal with any belittlement, rude in-laws, or an incompetent husband. I'm still healing from the divorce because I never expected Maddie and my relationship to end. But I'm beginning to feel better with each day that passes, so that's a win for me. I can't wait for this next chapter of my life. Here's to better relationships in the future.